So recently I spent a whole week living and working in Penang, and while Penang is definitely a great spot to visit for its food and culture alone, it also just so happens to be a great remote working destination as well. And while you won't find any traces of a WeWork in Penang, I did actually find quite a few local co-working spaces that were actually quite nice to work out of. I hopped around 3 different spaces throughout the week, and here are my reviews and just some of my thoughts about working in Penang. So the first co-working space I went to go check out was called Masco. They brand themselves as the largest co-working space in Penang. When I went there, I was definitely impressed by the amount of space. They have 2 floors, very open layout, lots of seating, several smaller offices and smaller private rooms as well to take calls from. And in general, I just didn't feel really cramped or crowded at all, despite the fact that there were several other people also using the space as well. I actually spent 2 days working at this space because it was really close to my hotel. It was about a 10-minute walk, and so it was really convenient in terms of location. In terms of price, it cost 30 ringgits per day. Another nice part of this co-working space is that they are open until 10 p.m. every day. A lot of other spaces that I saw in Penang closed at 6 p.m. And so definitely for the space alone, I think it's worth it to come here, but also the fact that they open late is also a nice benefit. Okay, so the next space that I checked out was called Settlements. It was much smaller than the Masco co-working space and didn't have nearly as much private space, and so it did feel a little cramped. And honestly, it had more of a corporate office vibe in terms of the layout and the interior design. However, this place definitely had the best view out of all of the spaces that I visited during my week in Penang. And so for that alone, I would recommend checking out this space. It was also the cheapest one that I found. It was only 25 ringgits a day, which is incredibly cheap for a co-working space. I would recommend checking this out just for a day. It was really nice just to go there, enjoy the view, and work a little bit. I probably wouldn't spend a whole week working out of the space just because there wasn't that much privacy. It got kind of loud and there were a lot of people there, but the view was awesome. There was lots of natural light. It was nice just working by the window. There's also a nice cafe on the ground level of the co-working space. I was able to just have a nice snack and a drink and chill there for an afternoon and do some more work in a different setting. All right, so the last space that I checked out for the week was called Common Ground. And I was really impressed by just the overall design of the space. It feels really cozy. There's a built-in cafe. And I thought in general that this was probably the nicest space that I visited during the whole week. It didn't feel cramped or crowded at all. There were a lot of different spaces to just sit down, do some work. There's some private rooms that I could take calls from. Their staff was super friendly. The community manager at the front desk was really helpful. They helped me print out a few pages of documents for my flight out of Penang. And so overall, I really liked the space, but the one really critical downside of Common Ground was the fact that their Wi-Fi just was not that good. And I noticed this once while I was in a Zoom meeting. It was cutting out a little bit. And I did a speed test check immediately afterwards, and I saw that I was getting maybe like 10 to 20 megabit per second Wi-Fi speed, which is pretty poor for a co-working space. And considering that Common Ground was also the most expensive space that I visited during the week, it cost 50 ringgits per day. I thought that it definitely wasn't delivering on the value. So out of the 3 co-working spaces that I visited, I wouldn't say there was a definitive best one. Each one had its pros and cons. Masco was definitely the largest, had a ton of space, and it was open until 10 p.m., which was really nice. Settlements was definitely the cheapest and had the best view, but otherwise it was kind of cramped. And Common Ground definitely had the nicest interior and just overall vibes, but I think that the Wi-Fi was really poor. So those are some of my thoughts about working out of different co-working spaces in Penang. Overall, I think that it was still a great experience and would highly recommend if you're looking for a affordable and relaxing remote work destination. Penang is definitely a great place to check out. This was actually my first opportunity to work remotely outside of Singapore since moving here a couple of months ago, and I thought it was great. I definitely want to try working remotely in other countries and cities as well, so if you have any recommendations, then please let me know in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you all in the next one.